Hey all you cool cats and kittens! Welcome to Inline Plastic's annual product safety training. After this session, you should be well on your way to becoming a product safety hero. Now you may be wondering, what is product safety? Product safety is all about ensuring no one will get hurt from eating out of our containers. Product safety is also about ensuring no one will get sick from eating out of our containers. Moving on to SQF certification. SQF stands for Safe Quality Food. The SQF program is a food safety management system. Following the program should help reduce the chances of someone getting sick or hurt from food or food packaging. SQF requires an on-site recertification audit every year. Every third year is an unannounced audit. The next unannounced audit for Inline Plastics will be in 2021. Most importantly, SQF certification is required by most of our customers. This is why it is extremely important to know and follow all of the policies and procedures you will learn throughout this training. Inline Plastics Quality Policy is a summary of how we want to provide our customers with safe products of the highest quality. Follow along with me. Inline Plastics Corp aspires to be the industry leader at supplying our customers with safe, highest quality, innovative, and cost-effective packaging and packaging automation solutions that meet or exceed customer expectations. This will be accomplished through superior commitment to continuous improvement in product and safety innovation, customer satisfaction, quality, and operational excellence. All of our products will meet or exceed food safety compliance laws and GFSI standards. GFSI stands for Global Food Safety Initiative. The quality policy is posted throughout each facility. The most prominent locations are the cafeteria, the lobby, time clocks, and conference rooms. Now, it's important to know that during the SQF audit, the auditor can talk to anyone he or she wants to. Some of the typical questions they may ask are your name, position, what does SQF stand for, does Inline have a quality policy, how do you ensure product safety, how do you know how many pieces are in a box, in a stack, or what corrugated to use. There is no need to worry or be nervous if they want to talk to you. Just answer the question they ask, and if you don't understand the question, then feel free to ask a supervisor. So we've learned about what SQF and product safety is all about. But in order to have a successful SQF system, we have to have a good foundation. Picture SQF being at the top of the food safety pyramid. The base of the pyramid is what we call prerequisite programs. These programs, such as pest control and personal hygiene, give us a solid start to an SQF system. The middle tier of the pyramid is called HACCP, and we'll learn more about that later. But for now, let's dive into Inline's prerequisite programs. We first have to determine who these programs apply to. Well, it's pretty simple. These prerequisite programs apply to all personnel, which includes staff and employees, contractors, and visitors. Now we'll discuss some important definitions in the manufacturing facility. First is the manufacturing area. This includes shipping and receiving, material storage, stairwells, and restrooms. Next up is the critical area. This is where product is being produced and handled directly. This also includes the cull repack area. Now, depending on your facility, the critical area is outlined in either white or blue lines. Lastly are the non-manufacturing areas. These include any offices in the cafeteria. The health of our personnel is a very important part of product safety. We ask that you notify your supervisor if you have been exposed to an infectious disease like any virus, hepatitis A, or if you have any infected or exposed cuts, wounds, or sores. If you do have an exposed cut, please see your supervisor and they'll provide you with a blue metal detectable Band-Aid. If an injury were to occur causing a spillage of bodily fluids, for example blood, It is very important that a properly trained employee ensures that all affected areas have been cleaned safely and properly, and also ensures that all affected material have been quarantined and disposed of safely and properly. Moving on to food and drink, eating and drinking anything except for water in the manufacturing or critical area is not allowed. This includes cough drops, flavored water, candy, soda or juice, chips, coffee or any open coffee containers, and gum. All food and drink brought into the facility must be stored in refrigerators or the cafeteria. This means that you cannot store any food items in your lockers. When you arrive at work, put all food and drink in the proper location immediately. We do perform frequent locker inspections to verify personnel are following this protocol. Although you can drink water in the manufacturing critical areas, water bottles must be clear and plastic. They cannot be tinted in any way or made out of glass. One important thing to note is that flavored water does not count as water. This is not allowed in the manufacturing or critical area. One more additional requirement about water is that water bottles must be stored away from any raw material and on top of product contact surfaces. They should never be placed on plastic rolls, corrugated, or on top of packer tables directly. Moving on to clothing. Clothing in the critical area must be clean, must cover the underarm, so no tank tops are allowed, must be made of material that will not contaminate our products, so no fur or sequins, and also nothing above the waist, like pens, notepads, lanyards, etc. Lastly, earplugs without a cord are not allowed. Do not cut the cord attaching the earplugs together. Jewelry is not allowed in the critical area. The only exceptions are rings with no stone setting and a medical ID. Jewelry includes watches and fitness bands, bracelets, necklaces and chains, earrings, and rings with stone setting. Again, rings with no stone setting and a medical ID are allowed. Unsecured personal items are also not allowed in the critical area. This includes keys and keychains, sweatshirts and jackets, chapstick and lip gloss, cell phones, lighters and cigarettes, and any books or magazines. If a personal item is secured below your waist, for example in your pockets, then they can be brought into the critical area. All right, everyone. So far, we've come into work. We put our food away in the refrigerator. We're wearing clean and appropriate clothes. We've taken all of our jewelry off. And we left our personal items in our lockers. Now only a few more final steps before entering the critical area. We'll start with washing our hands. Every person entering the critical area must always wash their hands when arriving at work, after using the bathroom, after eating, drinking, or smoking, after handling waste or chemicals, after sneezing or blowing your nose, and basically whenever your hands get dirty. Remember, it's a good practice to always wash your hands with warm water, soap, and scrub for at least 20 seconds. It helps by singing happy birthday twice. Next step is to put on our hairnet and beard net. Hairnets must always be worn in the critical area, and beard nets are needed if there is visible hair growth. You should always replace your hairnet and beard net after breaks and lunch. That means you should not be wearing your hairnet outside or in the cafeteria, after visiting the restroom, eating, or smoking. All right, so how to put your hairnet and beard net on takes some skill. The most important piece of advice is to make sure that all your hair is covered. Step 1 of putting your beard net on is to align the beard net so closures face east and west. Step 2 is to pull your beard net elastics over your ears and cover your nose with the beard net. Step 3 is to check that all your hair is covered. That's it. You're looking good. Before we go through how to put your hairnet on, please note that religious head coverings, headbands, do-rags, and bandanas can be worn underneath your hairnet as long as they are fully covered by your hairnet. Alright, so step 1 of putting on your hairnet is to align the closures so they face up and down. Step 2 is to place one of the closures on your forehead and pull the other over your head. Step 3 is to pull your hairnet over your ears. Step 4 is to check that all your hair is covered. That's it. You're again looking good. One important tip before going into the critical area is to always check clothes for any loose hairs. There is a lot of static electricity generated by our containers. You don't want to be like this guy. Loose hairs can easily be pulled into a stack of parts and accidentally sent to a customer. We finally made it to the last step prior to us being able to go into the critical area. Nitrile gloves must be worn when handling finished product in the critical area. Remember, you always need to wash your hands before putting on nitrile gloves. Picking up the gloves with dirty hands will transfer whatever was on your hands to the gloves themselves. Also remember to replace gloves with a new pair after breaks and lunch, after visiting the restroom, eating, smoking, and any time they get torn or dirty. If you do notice your glove is torn or if a piece of it is missing, please notify a supervisor immediately so we can put the product on hold and inspect it thoroughly. Remember, clean gloves are your friend. Always replace if your gloves are torn or dirty. Take a moment to look at Sad Ralph. Do you see anything that he's doing wrong? I see a lot of things. Now take a moment to look at Johnny Q. He doesn't want to be a zero. He wants to be a product safety hero. It is an SQF requirement to have a pest control program. This program ensures our buildings are protected from bugs and pests. We have glue boards around the inside perimeter, bait stations around the outside perimeter, and bug lights in the receiving area. It is also important that we have control over sharps in our manufacturing area. To ensure control, all used blades must be turned into a supervisor in order to get a new blade. Allergens are a widespread source of contamination to the food industry. Although Inline's risk of contaminating our containers with different allergens is low, it is important to understand what are considered food allergens and how we can control contamination. The United States recognizes the following as food allergens: peanuts, tree nuts, milk, eggs, fish, shellfish, wheat, and soybeans. Canada also considers mustard seed, sulfites, sesame, and gluten as allergens as well. In order to control the risk of allergens, we only consume food in the cafeteria. We always wash our hands thoroughly after eating, and we always use a new pair of nitrile gloves. Lastly, we eliminated all peanuts and tree nuts from all vending machines based on a customer's request. We've covered a lot so far. All of our policies that you've learned are centered around reducing the potential of contamination. The types of contamination we've covered are blood and bodily fluids, food and drink, clothing, jewelry, our own hands, hair, bugs and pests, sharps, and allergens. That may seem like a lot, but there are plenty more that we need to discuss. Below are the additional sources of contamination that we're going to cover: glass, wood, metal, dirt and dust, plastic, tape, paint, and even our own containers. Starting off with glass, in order to control the risk of glass bottles are not allowed in the manufacturing or critical areas. We do periodic inspections for glass and brittle plastic breakage. Also, all overhead lights have shatterproof covers just in case. It's important to note that if you do find broken glass, please report it to your supervisor immediately so it will get cleaned and disposed of properly. Next up is wood. In order to control the risk of wood, pallets used for finished goods, such as finished goods cases and regrind, are inspected prior to use. On fast-moving machines, called preheats, 5 backup pallets are allowed per machine. On slower-moving machines, called contact heats, 1 pallet is allowed per machine. And as a reminder, no broken pallets are to be used for finished goods. In order to control the risk of metal, our maintenance and technical departments account for small items such as nuts and bolts before any item runs. We also do have a metal detector that is used on certain items per customer request. In order to control the risk of dirt and dust, all raw materials and finished goods should never touch the floor directly. This includes corrugated boxes and bundles, plastic bag boxes, finished product in cases, and then plastic rolls without the plastic stretch wrap. All machines are cleaned at the first roll change of every shift. And our maintenance department sweeps manufacturing in critical areas frequently. In order to control the risk of plastic, more specifically plastic shards, packers inspect stacks of parts for mistrims and shards. Also, the trim press is frequently cleaned during roll changes and machine jams. In order to control the risk of tape, duct tape is never used to repair the machine. Duct tape should never be visible on the machine or touching any raw material. Grip tape is replaced when worn or dirty. As a reminder, no duct tape visible on the machine and no duct tape touching raw material. In order to control the risk of paint, we do not paint any surface that may contact raw materials or finished goods. And chipping paint is either repainted or scraped if found. In order to control the risk of our own containers and corrugated, we never use our containers or corrugated for personal storage or trash. We finished with the specific types of contamination. Now for some more inline specific policies regarding our manufacturing in critical areas. Starting off with food trash. Since you can't have food or drink in the manufacturing and critical areas, no food trash can be placed in any containers in these areas. The red containers are placed in the manufacturing and critical areas. Please do not put any type of food or drink in these. All food and drink can only be thrown away in the cafeteria. This reduces the risk of bugs and pests in our manufacturing and critical areas. There are other various containers throughout the facilities that are used to separate recyclables like product to be baled, stretch wrap, and product to be reground. Always verify that you have the right bin before throwing any away. Also, never put oily or greasy parts into these bins. There are designated containers for oil and grease waste and debris. Chemical control is extremely important for product safety and also personal safety. Always make sure that chemicals are labeled, stored away from raw materials and on top of product contact surfaces. They belong underneath the packer table, not on top of the packer table or on corrugated or plastic rolls. And lastly, always securely store when not in use, unless it is food grade safe. Food grade safe chemicals are the silicone spray and Evolution SC. Our facilities are very large, and it takes teamwork to keep our facility clean and in tip-top shape. A good tip for cleaning is to always remember to clean from the top to the bottom. This makes sure you never have to clean something twice. Along with cleaning, we have different colored mops and brooms to reduce the potential of contamination. Each colored mop and broom has a designated area it should be in. Blue is the critical area only. White mops and green brooms are for the manufacturing area only. Yellow brooms are for the grinding area only, and orange mops are for the restrooms only. The critical area is our highest risk area, so remember, only blue brooms allowed. Moving on to paperwork and documentation. First and foremost, always record correct and appropriate information. Next, only permanent black or blue ink pens are allowed. Absolutely no pencils. Any mistakes on paperwork require one line crossed out through them and then initial and date. No whiteout is allowed. Lastly, if paperwork has an area for response, it has to be filled out. If the response is not applicable, write NA. All right, so we've learned a lot about potential product safety problems. The question is, what should you do if you see a product safety problem? Well, the answer is to report that problem. You may wonder who to report any product safety issues to. Please report them to your supervisor or anyone in the chart above. They have the authority to take action. So if you see something, say something. Let us help and let us solve the problem. Back to the food safety pyramid. Remember that in order to have a successful SQF system, we have to have a good foundation. We learned all about our prerequisite programs. This gives us a solid start to a successful SQF system. Now it's time to focus on the middle tier of the pyramid called HACCP. HACCP, or what we refer to as our food safety plan, stands for Hazard Analysis and Critical Control Point. HACCP is a risk-based food safety system where every step in the manufacturing process is analyzed for potential food safety risks. Food safety hazards are broken up into 3 different buckets: biological, chemical, and physical. Biological food safety hazards are made up of bacteria, viruses, and mold. Chemical hazards include allergens and processing chemicals. Physical hazards are glass, plastic, hair, metal, and bugs. Out of all of these hazards, what do you think is our highest risk hazard at Inline? Well, if you guessed plastic shards, you are correct. Shards was our number 1 most common reason for contamination complaints in fiscal year 2020. As I mentioned, during a HACCP analysis, every step in the process is analyzed for potential hazards. You can see here a process flow diagram of Inline's manufacturing process. Within each step, specific hazards are identified, and it is determined if those hazards are controlled by our prerequisite programs or if additional control is needed. One interesting fact about HACCP is that NASA partnered up with Pillsbury to develop HACCP in order to ensure astronauts would be eating safe food. All right, people, we're on the home stretch. So now we're going to be leaving the discussion around product safety and moving to product defense. You may be wondering what product defense is. Product defense is the protection of products from intentional contamination or tampering. Remember that product safety is protecting product from unintentional contamination. As a reminder, there's 3 buckets of food safety hazards that can contaminate our products. Those are biological, chemical, and physical. Biological is bacteria, viruses, and mold. Chemical is allergens and processing chemicals. And physical is glass, plastic, hair, metal, and bugs. Inline has various security measures in place to ensure this type of contamination doesn't take place. Let's learn about the security measures now. For outside security, we always want to ensure that exterior doors and windows are always locked and doors are never propped open. All exterior doors and parking lots have lights that are on after dusk. We do have security cameras monitoring the exterior of the building, and any suspicious cars or activity outside should be reported to your supervisor. For inside security, employees must never let non-employees into the building. We do have security cameras and alarms monitoring the interior of the building. We have emergency lighting in case of a power outage. And any suspicious people or activity inside should be reported to your supervisor. For shipping and receiving security, all raw material deliveries and pickups are scheduled. All incoming and outgoing trailers are inspected for any holes or smells. Only warehouse personnel should let truck drivers in, so if you do see a truck driver outside, please notify someone from the warehouse and do not let them in. Also, the area is monitored by security cameras as well. For mail handling security, mail and packages must not be open if they have no return address, have a handwritten mailing address, or have powder residue or oily stains. If any suspicious packages are found, please report them to the plant manager or any EHS personnel. For personnel security, background checks are conducted on all employees. Employees receive training on security procedures when hired and annually after that. Employee lockers are inspected frequently. And each employee receives an access card to enter the building. Next are visitor and contract guidelines that we have to follow. Visitors and contractors should have scheduled appointments. Always sign in, wear a visitor's badge when in the facility, and have a company escort in the facility at all times. Lastly, control of access cards and keys. It's important to never lend your access card to anyone. Report lost access cards and keys to your supervisor or HR immediately. If you do lose your access card or key, there's a $5 charge for your first replacement, $10 for your second, and $15 for your third. Return any access cards or keys to HR when leaving the company. Well, you finally reached the end. Thank you so much for your time. I'll be talking with you next year.